My name's Nathan Bell and I'm going to talk about a psychosis I had a few years ago which led to about 4 hospitalisations. It was an ongoing psychosis that went on for a year or 2 with repeated episodes. So during the psychosis I experienced, I had a very surreal set of experiences where I felt I was communicating with spiritual entities from other realms of reality. And I felt I was receiving all these cues and messages coming to me from some supreme being. So I would see coincidences in my environment around me. People would say strange things to me which seemed to connect with each other. They would mention things like magic and being wizards, and all the conversations seemed to merge together into some web of connected symbology. And I was also having a series of hallucinations. At the time I had a very vivid hallucination of a futuristic city. I had a hallucination of a monk character, like a Tibetan monk character, performing martial arts. And I had other visions. I had a vision of a future war, and all of these signs and these visions and these hallucinations led me to believe that I was, of course, as is so common, a prophetic figure sent from heaven to serve some greater purpose. And I felt that I had the purpose of surviving World War III to lead humanity into a new age, a glorious new age of prosperity and abundance. And this elaborate delusion developed more and more with time, and I was very influenced by ideas of shamanism and ancient mysticism. I was very caught up in learning about reported psychic abilities and ESP phenomenon, and I was reading a bunch of questionable information on the internet. And I think it's important to acknowledge the role of the information we take in and how that can affect our delusions. I'm still into a bunch of really interesting alternative information, and I think some of it has some truth to it, but a lot of the stuff I was getting into around psychic abilities and channeling spiritual entities, there's not a lot of science to suggest that any of that is real. I was looking into the astral travel and the out-of-body experience stuff. Some of that is still interesting, but it's very questionable and it's pseudoscience, and all of that was feeding into my delusion that I was a mystical being sent from a higher realm to achieve some divine purpose while alive, and that I was somehow special. So anyway, I ended up writing, after I came out of the psychosis and started taking my medication again, I ended up writing a series. Well, I wrote a novel with a character based off me in that time called Kings of the New Age, The Quest of the Balancing Stones, and that character in the story is a psychic with schizophrenia who predicts an atomic war and then survives it and then goes on to save the earth using magic. And then following that, I wrote 3 stories about the psychotic episode. One of those stories is Shamanic Journey, which deals with a lot of my delusions that I was communicating with spirits and receiving messages in my environment from the universe. I also wrote The Wizard and the Eye Man, which was about myself and my friend Matthew, who were both in psychosis at the same time together, and both really absorbed in conspiracy theories on the internet. And that deals with some of the misinformation that we were reading, the conspiracy theories we were going down the rabbit hole of, and the delusions we were having. I also wrote another one called The Wizard's Spell, which deals with me in my apartment at the time going through this ritualistic process of doing all these strange eccentric behaviours in mania, which I thought were the process of conducting a spell. So I thought I was casting a spell of love and projecting the energy of love out onto the city of Newcastle, because one of my purposes in this delusion was to spread love throughout the world and to unite the world with universal love. So the wizard spell deals with me in my apartment conducting these strange rituals to cast this spell of love. I don't have the wizard spell on me because my next batch is arriving in the mail tomorrow. But yeah, during this period of psychosis, I did have some very profound experiences that are still with me to this day. I had an experience that I was above my body while I was laying in my bed, and there was a glowing blue grid around me. Everywhere around me was this glowing blue grid that seemed to go endlessly into the ether, and that was a very profound sort of out-of-body experience that I had. As I said, I had that hallucination of a futuristic city with robots, and I had that vision of the monk training in martial arts. And after I had that vision of the monk training in martial arts, I used my NDIS funding, which I had just been given at the time, to get a personal trainer to train me in martial arts, and I did that for the next year or two. So I did have some very powerful experiences which still stick with me to this day, and I think a good approach is to look for the positive in these sorts of delusional experiences and see if you can create anything new and amazing out of them when you come out of those states of mind. So I try to write stories about my experiences which are entertaining and which give people joy and happiness reading my stories and provoke thought. So yeah, I think psychosis can be profound, but unfortunately most people can't function in society in that state of mind.